Getting an IRS notice in the mail can be one of the scariest things that a taxpayer can go through, especially whenever they use verbiage like, we're going to put a lien on your bank account. All sorts of emotions can start flying. But honestly, if this ever happens to you, you need to take a deep breath. You need to reach out to your tax professional because there are ways how you can handle these penalties and interest. Let's break down some of the different penalties that you can get from the IRS and the different levels to them and how serious they actually are. So the first one is failure to pay penalties. This penalty is 0.5% per month, and this 0.5% is capped at 25% of the total tax due. Now, generally, these types of penalties are penalties that you should just go ahead and pay, but they can get abated under certain circumstances. Then there's also failure to file penalties. These occur whenever you have a tax due and you forgot to file on time. This can either be because you forgot to file an extension, or if you did file an extension, you didn't file their tax return by the October 15th deadline. This penalty is 5% per month up to a maximum 25% penalty on the tax due. Again, this is 5% per month and not 0.5% per month as the failure to pay penalty. This is the failure to file penalty. This is a penalty that, like the failure to pay penalty, can also be abated or removed under certain circumstances. On a freakout scale, I would say that this is again a level 1, whenever a 10 is you're going to jail for tax fraud. Then there's also accuracy related penalties. These types of penalties usually come after an audit. You've gone through an audit and maybe you had a lot of deductions thrown out and they have determined that you have substantially reported your income. This penalty can also be pretty severe as it's going to be 20% of the unpaid tax. So for all my business owners out there and my real estate investors, be very cautious whenever you're taking a very aggressive stance on your tax return, because if the IRS tries to hit you with this penalty, however much tax that you underpaid by, you're going to get hit with an additional 20% tax on that. Now, as I mentioned before, the other penalties, you could possibly get those removed or even abated, but something like this type of penalty, the accuracy related penalty, many times you may not be able to get this removed unless you fight it all the way to a higher level, maybe even taking it all the way to tax court or something like that. On a scale of 1 to 10, whenever it comes to the accuracy related penalty, I'd say that's probably closer to like a 6 or a 7 on the freakout scale. Now, what would be considered a level 10 on the freakout scale? Well, this is going to be something like civil fraud. And whenever we're talking about civil fraud here, we're talking about potential jail time as well as penalties reaching up to 75% of the unpaid tax. And then just to take it up one more level, you also have criminal fraud. And of course, you can go to jail for this as well. So this is just a general breakdown of the penalties. I didn't go into all of the details as there can be a lot more nuance to some of these penalties, but this is just high level. And remember, if that letter says that you owe any interest and penalties, there may be options for you to get those removed. So make sure you contact a tax advisor. And if you don't have a tax advisor working with you on your team, reach out to us. We'd love to have a discussion with you to see if we'd be a great fit to work together.